Hey drummers, and welcome to this week's exclusive sponsor lesson. Got quite an advanced one this week. What we've got is we've got this little pattern we're going to learn, which is 5 notes long. Right, left, right, right, left. We're going to orchestrate that between the floor tom and the snare drum. We're going to sort of loop that round 6 times, then we get 6 times 5, which gives us 30 notes. We're then going to chuck a couple more notes in there just to give us 2 full bars of 16 notes and keep the feet going with a nice simple boom, chick, ostinato underneath. So if you like what you saw in the intro and you want to give this one a crack, stick around. I'll break it down. Here we go. All right, I do warn you, and this is the reason why this video is a little bit late, because I've been a bit under the weather for the last 24 hours, so you might hear a little bit of sniffling or the odd little pop up every now and again, but I'll try and get through it without making as much fuss as possible. So if we have a quick look at the sticking pattern, what we've got is we're just going to play the first note of our group of 5 on the floor tom and all the other notes on the snare drum. I used this little idea in like a 1-bar pattern just so I was getting used to this idea, but now since I've spent a bit more time with it, I've sort of extended it and we're going to sort of work it into a groove and a fill idea. So I'll show you some little voicing ideas you can play around with it as well. So if we have a look at it, what we've got is we've got right. I'm going to play that quite hard, okay, so a bit of an accent on the floor tom, just to sort of announce the sort of start of each round at 5. We're going to go right, left, right, right, left, 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 right, left, right, right, left. And what we're going to do is we're going to practice playing that 6 times round. So what I'm going to do is now count the floor toms, and every time I've done just past the 6th one, I'm going to do an extra right, left on the floor tom and then start it again. So we get this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 1. And that will bring us round to our 2 bars, because I don't know, I tend to sort of like take little ideas and then make it match kind of like, or suit the sort of music that I'm playing. So I'm doing quite a lot of like rock sort of stuff. So you don't tend to get any sort of 5, 7, 3-bar phrasing. A lot of it's in groups of 4. So when a lot of the times if I'm taking these complicated patterns, I'll just manipulate it a tiny bit to suit either like a 1-bar phrase or a 2-bar phrase, just so that when I sort of maybe sort of raise the idea when sort of putting a song together, it's not going to confuse the bass player or the guitarist, which is always a good thing. All right, so what I was doing, if I just go through it one more time with the sticking, I'll try and count it. So we got right, left, right, right, left, 2, 3, right, left, right. I'm counting that wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, start again. 5, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 1. Okay, playing like that is not particularly hard. It's then when you get it going against a pulse, because obviously these accents here are not going to fall in line every time with like landing with a bass drum or landing with a hi-hat. It's going to be sort of, the accent's going to shift from like beat 1 to the sort of E of beat 2, and then it's going to sort of keep moving on, because obviously it's just going to, it's 1 note extra. So every time you play the round over, you're sort of shifting the accent 1/16th note along, which makes it quite exciting and makes it quite an interesting little groove to listen to. What I'll try and do, if I just try and sing it over the top of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will help doing that, especially when you start playing. 1, 2, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. And what you'll find is every time you've played it, you get to like the 5th round, you'll end up with that right hand back on the landing back with the bass drum again. So once you've sort of got to there, every 5 times round, you can find yourself in exactly the same place again. So you've only got to really learn the sort of 5 locations where that floor tom's going to be sort of interacting with the bass drum or the hi-hat, depending on how you think about it. So all we've got to do now is start counting how many of these groups of 5 we've done. So we need 6 of them to give us our 30 notes. And then once we've done that, we're going to chuck in our extra 2 notes on the floor tom, or on the snare drum, or wherever you want to chuck them. And then if we do that, in theory, mathematically, it should add to 32/16th notes, and we should land back on the 1. I'll give you a clue now. I've done it, I've practiced it, and it definitely works. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why did I do that? I made it more complicated myself. 2, 3, 4, And if you're coming out of 2 bars, it's quite easy to then go in and out of this if you're playing, you know, whatever context it is, because it's nice to go right, left, crash, and then you can sort of link that into another groove. So if you're using it as a bridge or something, I don't know why I've got my snare drum turned off, but it does sound quite nice when you play this at speed with it off. Let's turn it on for a little bit. Let's try that one more time. I'll do it a little bit quicker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so you can see how you can sort of get in and out of it, and obviously that's playing it nice and slow, but when you get comfortable with it, you can increase the speed, and you'll see how you can just sort of slot in and out of it, and all you've got to do is shift your feet to that, and get your hands going. Okay, and after a while, you won't be necessarily counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll just be able to feel where that floor tom's landing in relation to the kick drum and the hi-hat pattern. And you'll be able to sort of feel, okay, it's coming up now, and you're going to land basically on beat 1 of that 3rd bar, because you've just done 2 bars of that groove or whatever. So once you've got that pattern down, and that's going to take a little bit of grinding, practice-wise, we're going to snazz it up a tiny bit, and all we're going to do is, again, there's a little exercise you can do for this, and that is we're just going to accent that left hand, which will be the 5th note. This is going to be tricky to perform slowly. I know that for a fact, because I haven't practiced it a lot, and the one time I did, I struggled. So let's see if we get the feet going. So all I'm doing is I'm playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the final product, we're not actually going to end up playing that all the time. It's just if we can learn how to accent that left hand, that just gives us another option if we want to sort of play around with the dynamics of it. So here we go. Let's get the feet going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that won't be a particularly difficult addition to add to what you've already got if you've got this far. And then what you can do is, if you wanted to, you can sort of include that into the sort of 6 rounds and then 2 on the floor tom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you're back round again. Like I said, we're not going to use all of those, so what we'll do is we're just going to use it, and this is just the placement I particularly prefer, is doing it on the 1st group of 5 and then the 4th group of 5. So what I'll do, if I try and go around this slowly, so you're basically going to get a big slap on the snare before you count number 2, and then a big slap on the snare again before you count number 5. Should be right. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Definitely could have played that better. Let's try a little bit faster. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and that is essentially what I'm going for with this particular drum beat. I'm going to just pop the snare off again, and I'm going to play it a little bit faster. Let's turn it down here so it's not too ringy. Okay, so a little bit faster, here we go. Okay, so that's the basic pattern down. Another thing you can do is, if you want, just keep your right hand on the floor tom. Once you get sort of that pattern internalised, you can come up with some nice little sounds. Just turn the snare drum back on for this. And all I'm going to do is just keep my right hand on the floor tom and then do ghost notes with left and then the occasional hit. So on that first group of 5, I'm going to hit number 5 as a loud note, and then on that fourth group of 5, hit that left hand as a loud note. Here we go, nice fast. So that's another little idea, so you can sort of swap between that. Obviously I can clean it up a tiny little bit, but the idea is still there. Another thing you can do with it is, if you wanted to, you can just use it as a 2-measure drum fill. It's quite a tricky one, but it's going to sound pretty cool if you get those accents in the same place. What I'm going to do instead of just, hitting the right hand on the floor tom for every start of group 5, I'm going to hit the ride cymbal and the bass drum. So if I just take away the bass drum for now, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's add the bass drum and the accents. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 1, 2. A little bit faster. Alright, so once you get this particular pattern down, like I said, it's 2 bars long, so it's fairly useful in most sort of contemporary music. Not even contemporary, just all music really, that sort of like sticks that standard like bars in groups of 4 or groups of 2 or something like that. And you can find a little use for it. And it's really nice, it just catches the listener off guard a little bit, because obviously you're expecting things to come in like groups of 4 or playing on the beat with groups of 6s, the occasional 9s, but to chuck in some 5 groupings every now and again, can sort of, and still keep a nice underlying pulse with it. So it's fairly simple to follow along, but the odd little note pops out in little weird places. It can sound really cool. So that's pretty much all I've got explaining wise. What I'll do is if I just pop up there, I'll start playing at a few different speeds. Let's play it with the snare drum on, because I think it sounds nicer, but obviously it's completely down to you. So here we go, let's go up there. See you in a sec. Nice and slow. This is much harder than playing it a little bit faster. Here we go. Yep, that's all you're going to get out of me, because I can feel it slipping away. Let's go a bit faster. Cool, so that was it as a fill. Go a little bit faster. Right, let's turn this up again. Full whack again, here we go. Alright drummers, there it is. I hope you enjoyed that lesson. It shows you what sort of mileage you can get out of just one simple pattern when you can start layering it. You can use it, with different voices, you can use it as a fill, you can use it as a groove, just by manipulating it a tiny bit. Don't forget to click on the links for sheet music. Obviously you can just download that or print it off or whatever and have a little play around with this. But ultimately sort of take this little concept of using these little groups of 5, get that pattern down, get that sort of feel of what it's like to sort of play it over that sort of standard sort of 4/4 pulse, and see what little accents you can have popping out of it, or little phrases you can get out of it, because it's a really fun little idea to play around with. And you can make it useful whether you're playing sort of rock, pop, funk, indie, jazz. You can sort of give it a bit of a swing and stuff like that. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the lesson. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for being a sponsor. And I'll see you, next week. Probably the lesson will be free and to everyone, and then the week after that will be another exclusive lesson for you guys. So thanks again, and I'll see you very soon. Have a good Christmas. Bye.